Hey, good morning, everybody. He is risen. First thing I want to say is this burial cloth that they saw and believed still exists. If you believe the evidence around the Shroud of Turin. Is my microphone even on? Hold on. The Shroud of Turin is absolutely fascinating. The evidence is overwhelming for its authenticity as this burial cloth, 14 feet long, 4 feet wide, approximately. And there's a guy coming here Saturday, April 13th. So just in a couple weeks, he's coming here. And he's going to speak to us at 10 a.m. about the Shroud. Can't recommend it enough to hear what this guy has to say, to hear the case made for this. One of the most studied scientific objects in the history of the cosmos. All right, now, my segue from there is I just want to discuss the historicum factum. That's Latin, but you know what it means. Historical fact of Christianity. It's just so concrete. It's so tangible. You just kind of run into it. Amongst the religions of the world, it's kind of a separator. It's not just a philosophy, some man-made religion, or just reducible to some sort of moral teaching or ethics. Okay, it's about God getting involved with the human race and orchestrating a divine plan to save us. And I really, really need a drink of water. Thanks, boss. I really like St. Peter's message here today in the house of Cornelius, Acts chapter 10. It's very, very much like many of the other addresses, long discourses, and sermons that you find in the Acts of the Apostles, man. This is like ground zero of the proclamation of the good news. And notice he's not just proclaiming some teaching like love, everybody love one another. Like that's awesome and all. But Christianity at its origin, at its ground zero, is about testimony. Testimony. He was sent to bear witness. Testimony to what he's seen and heard, that they got involved with this thing. They were chosen by God to witness things, and that they have to share with other people. Not just one person, a whole bunch of people. A witness, it's a funny word, comes from Old English. I looked it up. Basically, it's one who testifies regarding facts or events, gives or bears testimony. And that's what St. Peter's doing here. So I like the simplicity of that proclamation of the gospel. These are things that we've seen and heard, touched, okay? And that's what I mean by tangible. It's just real, historical factum. I love that about our faith. And the witness of the prophets, he throws that in there as well. I like that too. This is the one whom all the prophets foretold. Nobody's made a grand entrance into this world like the Son of God, like Jesus of Nazareth. A absolutely miraculous convergence of prophecy and prefigurement converge on this guy. Unbelievable, down to the time, the place. God's plan of salvation was foretold. What God was going to do. Incredibly intricate and elegant. That's what fascinates me. I study the Bible a lot. It's like one of my favorite things. And I love to read the Old Testament and see these prophecies and prefigurements and just admire the intricate, elegant plan of God. I discern there the finger of God. This is not a man-made invention. This is not a man-made religion. This isn't some cleverly devised myth or some legend. It's based on things that actually happened. He commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that this is the guy. This guy rose from the dead. This is the life buoy, the life preserver thrown down to the human race. That this is the Messiah who came into our mess. I made that up and I want credit for that. That's trademark. The Messiah, inviting him into our mess. So today, it's 2,000 years later, who cares? This historical factum is just as relevant today. This is the event, capital E, of the whole human race. We were visited by the Son of God. That captivates me. I just circle that thing like a moth circling the flame. So Peter's message here in the home of Cornelius just hits home to me like I'm there. I'm like, yes, I identify exactly with what he's saying and have assimilated, appropriated my Christian faith on that fundamental, basic level of events that were witnessed and testified to. I believe their testimony, and I believe the testimony of the Old Testament, the prophecies and prefigurements. I believe the whole thing has a divine ring about it. Now today, there's a lot of conversion happening. I would argue that the fields are ripe for the harvest. There's a lot of conversion taking place. People are coming back to Christianity, to Jesus of Nazareth in a fresh way. It's remarkable. Like they never heard it before. People are hungry for this. Something concrete and tangible. They're grabbing that life buoy, that life preserver. That's all I'm doing too. Just grabbing that thing, man. I'm clinging. Yeah, they can, whoever, you all can cling to whatever you want. I'm clinging to this. I think this is the finger of God. Now, why? Why so many conversions nowadays? I think the world is exhausted, disillusioned, feels empty. There's a whole turn in modernism, beginning end of the 13th, 14th century until today, a turn towards the subject, turn towards ourselves. We're going to solve all the world's problems, the human race. And this turn to the subject, turning into ourselves to determine our own meaning for the world. That human project, secular human project, has kind of failed. I mean, it's just war after war and failed administration after failed. It's just not working. People are just kind of burned out on this and looking for something else. We thought, this is great modernity, man. This great championing of the human person, this great new wave of humanism, nature, and man. That's all we need, this natural world. We don't need God anymore. Well, people are kind of disillusioned. Social media has helped, I think, bring about conversion in our world. Lots of people are posting testimonials. There's lots of good exchange of knowledge, of wisdom, of information is being exchanged. And I think that's helping people too. I listened to one this morning that fascinated me. It was a young lady who was totally enveloped in a new age spirituality, and she had her spirit guides and whatnot. And she discovered Jesus of Nazareth and had a profound conversion. And I just was, really captivated by her testimony. Somebody coming from this world that is so indicative of this centered on self, the spirituality of the new age. of vibrations and energies. It sounds so cool. It's so inviting. And we can manifest our own destiny, this law of attraction, and get in touch with resonances around us. You all are putting forth a marvelous resonance. I don't know if you knew that. I'm feeling it, your vibe. Just kidding, just kidding. It's a tough crowd, man. Dang, loosen up. All right, hey, look, this new age business, people are finding it shallow and empty because it is. It is. It doesn't satisfy the human heart. And it's based in lies and deception, and people are getting caught up with spirit guides, which are ultimately demonic, oftentimes. Psychedelic drugs, too, man. People are going down that pathway. It's like a new renaissance of LSD and magic mushrooms and DMT. People are having these trips, and they're seeking these things out like an entheogen, something to find God within ourselves. We enter into this spiritual journey and take this stuff and alter the state of our consciousness, seeking a spiritual journey, spiritual adventure. What do they find oftentimes? The demonic. They find themselves talking to spiritual entities. They don't know what they're doing or what they're opening themselves up to. I myself have had people coming to me who've come back to their faith in Jesus of Nazareth because of their experience with psychedelic drugs and the dark place that brought them to. So people are finding New Age-ism and psychedelics is kind of shallow and empty, and they're coming back to this concrete, historical fact to Jesus of Nazareth in a fresh way. Science is, also kind of seen as a bit of a dead end. People are a little disillusioned with the scientific materialism. Scientism is starting to break down. Scientism, the only certitude we have is scientific knowledge. Things that we can measure and calculate, quantify. All right? And all the world is matter. That's all it is. I'm 3 buckets of water and a handful of minerals. That's all we really amount to. And when we die, it's just like a computer. You throw it on the trash heap of spare parts. Okay? People are starting to realize that can't be the case. Scientific discoveries of the last 100 years, starting with the Big Bang, that's now settled science. And that is huge. Can't underestimate the importance of that for our time. That now we know the physical cosmos does not extend eternally into the past. It had a beginning. There is a beginning of the material universe. That is huge. 100 years ago, approximately, we discovered that. Now we're still trying to assimilate that. It has huge implications for a creator. Not only did it just spring out of nothing, but it's finely tuned to such an extent that is inexplicable. So finely tuned for us to be here right now, to have a cosmos where carbon-based life forms can exist. Unbelievable. The fundamental laws of physics have to be dialed in precisely, razor thin. Parameters for those fundamental physical laws for us to be here, and it could have been otherwise. How did we get such a Goldilocks cosmos to live in? That and the existence of our souls, that we have consciousness. That's something you can't put under a microscope, but it's inexplicable to the scientific method because you can't quantify it and measure it. It's very mysterious. It's elusive. Hey, we're more than just matter. Folks, we got a mind. And people are starting to appreciate that more. How about the data of near-death experience? More and more people are sharing their testimonies, and it's becoming put out there in the mainstream now. It's no longer in the fringe. When this started in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, you began hearing people talk openly and publicly about near-death experience Now it's very common. It's out there. Books have been written. Serious scientific studies have been done on this. People are having an experience of a trans-physical state. They have left their bodies and experienced death and being themselves totally. In their identity, their full conscious awareness of themselves perdured beyond bodily death. How do we explain that? The preponderance of evidence for that. Millions of people have experienced this. It's inexplicable scientifically, but people are hearing this and they're wondering, maybe we do have a soul. Maybe there is a mind behind all this matter out here in the cosmos. How do we explain the existence of a soul and the order of the cosmos and its beginning, the origin of life, the mystery that we understand now in the DNA code, the genetic code? How do we explain that there's information in life forms? Where did it come from? If you have code, somebody must have written the code. How do you explain these things just by randomness and chance? It sure doesn't seem like this physical cosmos is nothing but chance and blind, pitiless indifference. Okay, there's meaning, there's mind. Somebody's behind all this. There's a consciousness, a higher consciousness we call God behind all this. There's meaning and purpose in this world. So science and materialism, scientism and materialism are starting to come apart. And the historical arguments people have made to try to undermine the historical reliability of Christianity and the gospel accounts, that's starting to wear thin as well. People are starting to realize more and more how historically credible the gospel accounts are. After being attacked, the response is so overwhelming, the data, the presentation of the evidence is very compelling for the historical reality of Christianity and reliability of the testimony that we have. Proofs for the resurrection are incredibly compelling as well. I wish I could sit here and tell you all the proofs for the resurrection, but there's incredible evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. The demonic realm is real too. People who dabble, as I said, in New Age spirituality and take psychedelic drugs can tell you that. Many of them have encountered demonic realities. The realm of the occult is very strong these days, and people are experiencing demonic activity in their lives. Talk to any exorcist. If you don't believe in God, a powerful motive of credibility is the reality of the demonic, of the diabolical in our world. It's real, folks. People experience these things. When you take all these things, I'm trying to lay out for you reasons why I believe there's a wave of conversions in our world. People are disillusioned and empty. And they're coming back to this thing, to Jesus of Nazareth on a very basic level. And receiving the gift of faith again in a fresh way. And that's where I'm at. That's where I like to stay. That's where I like to live, on that basic level. I truly believe this carpenter from Nazareth in Galilee was the Son of God, sent down here as a life buoy for the human race. And showed that God is love when he climbed up on that cross. That there's hope and meaning and purpose for our lives. That we're more than just matter, that we have an eternal soul, an eternal destiny to be with our Creator forever in heaven. I believe that on sound evidence. This isn't some blind leap of faith. Faith is partly things that are not seen. But there are motives of credibility and evidence. I'm not just making a blind leap in the dark. I believe these things. And I'm clinging to the Son of God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Can I get an amen on that? Amen. And he told us to do certain things. Like what we're doing right now. On the first day of the week, we celebrate the holy sacrifice of the Mass every Sunday. That's where I get traction in my own practice of the faith. I'll just give you my own testimony. Look, I have declared myself a disciple of Jesus of Nazareth. I truly believe the carpenter from Nazareth in Galilee was the Son of God. I believe he rose from the dead. I believe he is the way, the truth, and the life for the human race. And when I practice my faith and live this life of the sacraments, I'm just doing the things that Jesus told us to do, like coming to Mass on Sundays. That's something the Son of God wants us to do. It's his manifest will for us. So it's got to come. Our practice of the faith has to derive from that fundamental conviction of who Jesus is, and then binding himself and declaring that we are his disciple and that we intend to do whatever he tells us to do. He is that life preserver, and we are going to cling to the Son of God.